Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of An Experiment Called Life with Alex McKenzie. That's me. As always, this episode is brought to you by Punchline Nutrition. Go check out NeuroBoost. It's like a multivitamin for your brain. I take it before I do any podcasts, go on stage, any writing. We do say we can't guarantee it will make you smart, but it will make you less dumb. So go to punchlinenutrition.com, use the coupon code ATJ, you'll save yourself 25%. And my tour is on sale right now, the Never Been Better tour. There's never been a better time to be alive and never been a better time to see Alex McKenzie perform live. So go to alextellsjokes.com, grab your tickets. Now, today we have a very special guest. I'm very excited to talk to this guy. He's very inspiring. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot from him. So please welcome to the podcast, the co-founder of Next Level University, Kevin Palmeri. Kevin,
Ooh.
thanks for jumping on, man.
Alex, the energy is off the charts. I'm going to do my best to match it. I'm excited to chat. Thank you so very much for having me.
Oh man, it's very excited to be here. So Kev, how did you've done over 2,000 podcasts with Next Level University. So what is Next Level University?
Next Level University is a global top 100 personal development podcast that has 2,102 episodes. And
Oh, buddy.
our goal is to add value every single day. And we want to help people level up their life, their love, their health, and their wealth. And if I'm going to tell you, you can get a little bit better every day, Alex, I better be there leading the charge.
Right. I really believe that's a very good I think that's the move, right? If you can just be a tiny little bit better, a little
That's
every
it.
day. I honestly close my last show I did, the Happy Camper Tour. I close where I talk about I think all my joy in life is chasing my potential. As I go, like I say, like, here's who I could be, here's who I am, and just trying to close that gap a little every day. And then I always say, like, and here's the thing, like, you're never gonna get here. You're never like, oh, I did it, I'm done. But you're like, it's just that pursuit of trying to be a little bit better.
That's fulfillment. I'm
Yeah.
convinced that that's what fulfillment is. You're never going to actually achieve the thing. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not a finish line, but it's a beautiful thing to shoot for. So you and I are in total agreement there.
Yeah, just trying to be, well, I think yeah, like we said, like it's very rewarding to be able to look at like who you are now and who you used to be and see that growth.
Yeah.
You think, I've never thought of this, but right now, as you age and your cognitive ability declines and your physical ability, do you think that then this is a failed pursuit? Because at some point, like I've never thought of this, but I just thought of it now. Like at some point, you are going to start being like, shit, I used to be better. And then do you have to change the goal? Like, I don't know.
No, because your opportunity to reach your potential is also declining. So you can still maximize, you can still keep the delta as small as humanly possible.
Okay, so then, yeah, we're not worried about like the where we were to where we are, but more of like where we could be and just not having
Yep.
that fade. I see.
I mean, when I'm 60, am I going to be able to be in the shape that I was when I was 18? No, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. But where will I be compared to where I was at 59? I think that's the goal.
Yeah. And then also again, like the big one is like your character, right? Like what kind of person you are and
Yeah.
who you are. Because that's what I always find. I found the biggest suffering I've had in life has actually been just moral failings. It's like when
Same.
I've let myself down, when you're like, that is not the kind of person I want to be. If I've ever lied, cheated, or stole, I
Yeah.
think is the proper 10.
Look, you don't even need it to be proper because it's the same. It means the same thing. And I remember moral failures. I think that's a really good label. I remember that more than any of my external successes.
Yeah. Well, they're the ones that seem to stick with you the most, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Can I ask you a question?
100%.
Have you, and obviously keep it anonymous, but there's a reason for the question. Have you ever met quote unquote heroes and been disappointed in the character that they had versus the character that you expected they'd have?
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've met any of my heroes
Okay.
in that way. What would I think? I've met some professional comedians when I was down in LA, and I was very excited to meet them. And they just weren't nice. Like
Hmm.
I remember one of them really like shunning me off and like, I was like trying to, hey man, I'm Alex and this, and they're like, oh cool, man. And just like, I
Hmm.
remember one of them literally turning their back, like they were on their phone. And I was like, hey, like, and they shot a special actually up here in Vancouver. And I was like, I do comedy in Vancouver. I'm like, what made you shoot it there? He's like, just worked out, man. Anyway, nice to meet you. And they just
Mm,
turned his back to me like this and kept on his phone. Like, didn't even walk away. And I was like, ah. So it made me really change my view of that guy. But he wasn't a hero. He wasn't someone I looked up to. It was just
yeah,
like, this guy was like one of the biggest comedians in the world at the time. And I was like, oh, this will be cool to talk to. And
it's rough. It's rough.
yeah. Yeah. What
It's
about
rough.
you?
We have interviewed many, many, many people that I looked up to,
Hmm.
and there is a reason we no longer do interviews. I will
Okay.
I will leave it at that. I mean, if we released it, it was somebody that we believed in for the most part, but there were two or three interviews with people that are like very well known, famous in our space that we just deleted and we
Right.
never released, and then we just stopped interviewing people. So I respect anybody who is very big on character because it is relatively unseen. It does almost nothing for external success in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
But there's something about being aligned with the person that you know you should be that I have massive respect for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I found it really good. What is that? An exercise that got me to do in therapy. So I struggled with mental health. That's how I ended up becoming a comedian. I don't think you become a comedian because everything's going good. I'm like going out there seeking the approval of complete strangers everywhere. And it was I remember it was like when I didn't know who I wanted to be or what I wanted to do, and the therapist told me, picture your funeral in 3 years. Have you heard that one?
Hmm.
So they say, yeah, picture your funeral in 3 years. And then they're like, what would you want a coworker to say about you, a family member to say about you, and a friend to say about you? And then it was like a coworker. You're like, oh, I want him to say he was hardworking and dependable. And like a family member would be like, he was loving and kind. And then like a friend, he was honest and trustworthy. And then it's like, okay, those are now your values. Obviously,
Hmm.
those are things that you value. And then from there, it's like now when you go throughout your day, it's like, what would a trustworthy person do in this situation? And
Yeah.
then you start trying to act out those ideals.
Yeah.
You almost felt like it's like that imposter syndrome people always talk about, at the beginning, because you're like really trying to do this thing and you're like, oh, it doesn't feel natural. I'm really trying hard here. And then over time, though, you just eventually become that.
Yes.
Right. And then you stack up all that evidence showing, hey, you are a trustworthy person. Remember when you did this and you did this, or, you are a kind person, or, yeah.
I have one, and again, it's like pie in the sky, fortune cookie stuff. But what would the best version of Kev do? I ask
Right.
myself that all the time. It started, I had a paper towel one time, I threw it, I missed the trash, went behind the trash, and I was like, nobody would know,
Right.
but I would know.
Right.
And that became the resounding question that I try to ask. And I try to answer it correctly every single time. Easier said than done, but it has been a good guide, I would say.
Yeah, dude, that's a really good one. What would the best
Yeah.
version you do? I got a real quick question. Is my mic okay? I didn't check the sound level. I should have done that before. Is it all crackly?
You
Is it all right?
sound good. Yeah, you sound great to me,
Perfect. Dude,
man.
well, I just blew a podcast like 2 weeks ago, and it was like a great podcast, and I had like it cranked way too loud. It was all crackly. I was like, oh no, I gotta burn all this now. I still put it out, but it's just awful.
You got it. No, you sound great to me. Now, in fairness though, and what are the chances of this? I usually use different headphones, and this is the first time I've ever in
Yeah.
2000 episodes used these. So you could sound terrible and I wouldn't even know. So, for what it's
Perfect.
worth.
Whatever. We're having a good time. Yeah, with the thing with the throwing in the garbage can, I think that's like a really good example, I think, because that's one I think we can all relate to that we've all done. Like you throw it and you're like, ah, should I go back? And you're like, like I know I should go pick that up. One random one that I like to do that makes me feel a little moral goodness is picking up a random piece of garbage. Like quite
Mhm.
often at the gas station, like if I'm filling my truck up and I'll see a piece of garbage that like missed the bin, and I'll like pick that up and put it in for the day, and I'm like, oh, Alex, you're such a good human. Like, what so what led you to wanting to get into personal development?
Mostly massive pain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's exactly what I say with the comedy, like
yeah,
depression.
yeah. It was,
Yeah,
it was, it was that. It was. I was somebody who, for most of my life, never thought I would be any level of successful.
right.
Somehow ended up getting my dream body, dated a model, had a high-paying job, had a nice car, all the stuff.
Yeah,
Was the most miserable I'd ever been.
right,
Didn't learn the lesson and thought to myself, I just haven't made enough money yet. I gotta go make more money.
right.
Made more money. and the problems didn't get better. And I had a moment where I realized that for most of my life, I had been unconscious. I just don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing at all. Opposite of unconscious is hyperconscious. And it became kind of my goal and my mission to be just become more self-aware. And that was, I never thought it was going to be what it is today. That was never, I never thought that was going to happen, but I just wanted to know more about myself because I felt like a stranger in my own body and in my own head. And that was the beginning for me.
Right. Yeah, the journey of self-discovery seems to be the thing, hey, like trying to figure out who you are. That's what I
Yeah.
would say my favorite pursuit of comedy is I'm like it's a self-discovery.
Mm,
And I don't know, my favorite guy's Macklemore. And
okay.
Macklemore's got like a dope line in his new album. He says, there's no shortcuts in the path, or there's no shortcuts in the craft, because the craft is actually just the path to discover you.
Mm.
And I was like, oh yeah. So that's what I always think about where I'm like, oh man, I want to get ahead, get further, further. And it's like, dude, there's no shortcuts. Like, and this whole thing is just to figure out who you are.
Yeah. Well, you learn more about yourself in the struggles than you do the successes anyway. Like
Hmm.
that's why there are the shortcut, I think, leads to a longer, worse road. It just doesn't feel like it in the interim. Like you get to celebrate early and you're on the stand with a trophy, and then eventually you realize that trophy has dues that you're just incapable of paying, and
Right.
then it takes your life over, you know? So I understand the allure of it. It looks really cool, but behind the scenes, I am certain it's terrible because I've met a lot of people that have taken some pretty major shortcuts, unfortunately.
Yeah. When when someone comes to you, where do you typically start? Like if someone is like trying to figure out how to get their life straightened out, what is like one of the first, it doesn't have to be the first step, one of the first three steps, anything that you think people need to take in order to start seeing improvement?
What does straightened out mean to you is the first. It's always that. What is
Right.
that? I want to be more successful. What does that mean? I want my relationship to be better. What does that mean? We need to start clarity. Clarity is paramount. That's one. Two, let's sit down and really discuss from your perspective internally what is your identity? So, who do you think you are? What do you think your strengths are? What do you think your weaknesses are? Who are you in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah.
And then the third thing is we always look at habits. So, let's take a look at your habits. Let's just look at what are your most common behaviors under health. So, are you somebody who goes to the gym? Do you meditate? Bada bing, bada boom. Wealth. How do you make money? Where do you spend it? Where do you invest it? And then love, self love, others love, meditation, whatever self love or others love means to you. Usually we'll look there because your habits are a really good indicator of what your future is going to look like
Right.
and what your present looks like based on what you've been doing. So, those three.
Yeah, what is it? I think James Clear has that thing, right? About like habits are they're like leading and lagging
Mm-hmm.
results of
Yep.
yours. So it's like, yeah, they're the best indicator of where you'll be in the future, and they're also a lagging indicator of how you got to where you are, I think. Is that what he
It's pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you think about so there's two versions of all of us. There's one, Alex A hits the drive through every day, gets a sausage, egg, and cheese, and a bunch of hash browns and whatever else.
it covers it in ketchup and extra salt.
Love it if that's what does it for you. Version two skips the drive through and puts that $10 into their comedy career. Who are you gonna bet on? I'm gonna
Right.
bet on the second one, right? Because that person has better habits. But it's not sexy to talk about habits necessarily. But I think it's the reason I am where I am today is because I just have better habits than I used to. That's it.
Right.
And I've learned more, but that's a habit. I've spoken more. That's a habit. So yeah, habits are unsexy, but maybe the most important things ever of all time.
Yeah, that's what it really helped me when I started developing. I actually have like a sorry, a habit tracker on my phone.
Nice.
And actually put it in like the spot where on your iPhone where normally your phone calls would go. And
Mm,
it's like in so the number one spot and I have my habit tracker and just to measure like did I get 8 hours sleep last night? Did I get my grams of protein? You know, I'm like, did I do my writing? Did I do stand-up writing? Did I post a joke? Like, and I just bang all those out. And it
mm.
does seem to help. But it does seem to become I've been struggling lately, I would say the last 2 to 3 months, where every month I need to find a new a new way to do it. I don't know. I'm losing my drive, like the desire to get up and like go for I don't know, and just get up and write and like do the little
Mm.
habit things. It's like the same thing every month because I usually make monthly goals,
Mhm.
and it's just the same thing now. Like for the last 4, I've been doing it the last 5 years. and I feel like I'm like burning it out.
Interesting.
I
Does it,
don't,
do you feel like you're making meaningful progress?
I would say I'm making progress for sure, but I think what I need to do, and I've done this once but in the past, I remember, was switch my monthly goals from habit-based goals to more outcome-based.
Okay.
Because what ends up happening is I know when I go to outcome-based goals, it's like, okay, did you actually achieve the thing? And it's like by the end of the month. But then I did that for a while. Then you realize you're like, hey, you're not getting certain things done or this isn't working. Then I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, break it back down to the foundation, just do the habits, and then the habits will lead to the goal.
Yeah.
But I think I need to just get more, I guess exactly like you're saying, clarity on like a very good one rather than writing down this month I'm gonna write 15 times for 15 minutes in the morning when I wake up. I could change it to like if I had these things completed by the end of the month, or what would I need to have done by the end of this month for me to feel like it was a successful month?
Mm.
You know, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And then it's like, okay, I know if I got all of this done this month, I would be like, perfect, that was a good month.
I think that's a great shift. I'm very similar to you where I just do the habits because they lead to the result.
Right.
I don't want to do the habits. They just and so my business partner and I are polar opposites. He's an engineer.
Yeah.
I am just a emotional go with the feelings thing. That's kind of
Dude,
how
I'm
I've
a
been,
real feeler. Yeah, yeah.
right? Same. He has an exercise streak where he's exercised every day for the last like 1400 days.
Oh my God.
He's all about keeping the streak. He likes streaks.
Right.
I don't like streaks really unless they get me to a particular goal. So I'm doing 10 pounds in 10 weeks loss right now. That's it for me. I don't, as a byproduct, I'm way more consistent in fitness than I was before. So I think to your point and what we were talking about before, we have to know what motivates us as humans.
Right.
Maybe it's not the number of days doing it. Maybe it's the number of days closer to the thing that we want. I think that's a super important thing. Clarity isn't just external, what I want to accomplish. It's internal, what motivates me, what inspires me, what triggers me, what's resistance for me, what fulfills me. I mean, that's a huge piece of it for sure.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one rather than just like, yeah, the streak. The streaks are very um attractive, you know? It's like it's very
Yeah.
easy to be like, ooh, this is cool to keep that going. I know with my sobriety, that's always what got me excited. You're like, ooh,
Mhm.
another day of no drinking and like seeing
Yeah.
the big streak. And then anytime I broke the streak, it's like I went on a drinking binge for like 2 to 3 weeks before I'm like, okay, we got to start a new streak. But it's like so lame when you're like, all right, day four. Like it's just not, it
Yeah.
doesn't have the same, but it's so easy to be like, ah, you're only 4 days into this thing. Your buddies are all out watching the hockey game. Go have some drinks, you know, you can start
Yeah.
the streak tomorrow. But when you have a long one, it's hard.
Well, it depends on what it is, right? I think for I don't know. I've never that's never been a thing I've done. I never
Right.
struggled with alcohol or anything. So but I know it works because every time you build it, it creates more pain if you lose it.
Right.
So it makes sense, but with other stuff, it might not. I don't know. I'm a weird creature where I was working on writing a book about podcasting.
Right.
My business partner was like, "All right, so you just do like half an hour a day?" No, it's not how I do it. I need 2 weeks of silence, and I'll just write the book, and then I'll go on to the next thing. I work really well in pockets of focus, not dip my
Uh,
toe. You know,
I
so
say, yeah.
it depends on the person, though. Some people like 30 minutes a day. I don't, that's just not the way I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, like just being really locked in on the thing for 2 weeks. I do find the longer you stay locked in on something, the deeper you can get into it. Because then it like, I noticed that with meditation. Like I got into meditation probably 10 years ago. And at the beginning, you're doing like 5 minutes and then you're doing 10 minutes. And then I found it takes roughly 10 minutes of sitting still, focusing on your breath to just start to get into the
Yeah.
meditation. And then the timer would go off, and I'm like, okay, I'm done my meditation. And I'm like, dude, you were just starting to get the benefits, you know? It's almost
Yep.
like going to the gym if you only ever did, you know, 3 reps or something, and the first three are really easy, and you're like, all right. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, dude, all the growth is going to come from when you're getting closer to failure, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like that with meditation. That's what I found. I,
Is your frame of thinking normal? Normal? Yeah, normal in the comedy space? Or are you an outlier with your focus on personal development?
I think it's an outlier. And I
Yeah.
think that would be from other people. Like a lot of comedians, when I talk to them, they're like, you either came from sports or the military. They're like, what did you, because it's very like, yeah, and very a lot more structured. Like a lot of my buddies who do it, some of them, like a lot of them don't even write. Like they
Mm,
just go on stage and that's how they do their writing. So they're like, here's a funny idea, and they just kind of like kick it around that way and then like work it out through that is where mine has been very yeah, just I don't know, very structured, I guess you would say.
okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And then I do, but it's hard to tell when you're in it. Like that was the best part about comedy was other people telling you how they perceived you. Because like we have an idea who we think we are. Like here's one
Yeah.
thing. I never thought I was a happy guy. Like I always thought I was like a pretty like I was like pretty negative and pretty like meh. And then everyone everywhere I went to shows and would hang out around rooms and comics, they're like, how are you so positive all the time, dude? You're just so like, oh, and I was like, I didn't think I was that, but then you start like, you know, getting comedy and getting on that stage kind of just reveals that to you. And when
Mm,
you're on the stage, you are just like an enhanced version of yourself. So like when I perform, I'm not like I'm me, but on 11. So I'm just like, hey, like very like, but I'm naturally like pretty high energy and like charismatic. But when I'm on
mm.
the stage, you're just like, okay, crank that dial up. And yeah.
Interesting. How do you know? How do you know? This is a question that I've never really gotten the answer to.
Okay.
How do you know who to take feedback from? Because some people just suck at knowing what's funny.
Right.
Other people you're just never going to be funny to. Other people will laugh at everything you say because they love you. How do you know what feedback to take and what not to?
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. It's generally, I guess it's again like we talked about like we're both kind of feelers.
Mhm.
So like I'm a feeler. So like if someone gives me feedback and I'm like, "Oh, that feels right." I'm like, "Oh, that is a good idea." Like it normally will click right away. It's like when you go on a date and you meet someone and you pretty much usually within the first 30 seconds, you know if you're
Yeah.
interested or not. Like it doesn't even have to get that deep. Like you sit down and you see them and you're like, hello, how are you? Hello. And it's like, oh, this was a mistake. Or like you're like, oh, this is exciting. Like you just kind of feel. And that's usually what I found with when people have given me feedback on a joke. It's either like the second they say it, I'm like, oh my God, that's a good angle on that premise, or that will get a good pop. The other one is like they say it, and you're just like, dude, that's not where I
Mm,
want to go with this at all. Um, but I think a lot of it is more that it's more based around the idea than who gives it.
okay.
Because I think I read a really good book, Creativity Inc., and it's on the founding of Pixar.
Okay.
One of the big things that their company believed was that a good idea could come from anywhere. So when they would do board meetings, like the janitor got to sit in the board meeting and
Mm,
talk. And so the guy who like changed the garbages got to talk just as much as like the lead engineers. And
nice.
they're like, hey, this guy can have just as good of idea. And I believe that. So I've had comics who are more of like a open mic level give me feedback that was better than stuff that I've had like touring pros give me. So
Mm,
I think that's one. But then there is also, can you hear the seagull?
I can. I was like, you are definitely on a boat.
We're on the water. Keep it down up there. Doing a podcast. Um, See, that guy's laughing at me already. He's trying to give me feedback. Yeah, and then there's some comics, like there's this comic up here, Ivan Decker, and whatever he tells you just works. Like he's just
Mm,
been doing it so long, he's so good that anytime he gives me advice, I'm like, okay, whatever he says is gonna be good. Yeah.
interesting. Okay, cool. I appreciate that answer because I've been trying to find an answer for that for a long time because when you put yourself out there, some
Mhm.
people just won't believe in you. Doesn't matter
Right.
what you say. Other people will believe in you almost no matter what, to a detriment.
Of course.
The truth is somewhere in the middle, and how do you find the truth?
Well, that's the one. Have you like I'm sure you're familiar with Alex Hermosi.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got that thing about who do you take advice from in business? And it's very good, but he has like I forget all the steps, but number one is he goes, does this person have something personally to gain from
Mm,
this? And that's like number one. If they do, like be very weary of what they're telling you. And then the other one is how successful is the person in this particular space? And then, yeah, I forget what the other ones are, but it kind of steps down like that.
yeah.
And that's one thing that I've noticed more on the business side of comedy. Like, because I self-produce everything. So I have a production company. We just basically rent venues and then put together, graphics kits and marketing campaigns and then try sell shows. And I'm going to sneeze, aren't I? Maybe not. Anyway,
Mm-mm.
the people who would ask me about that, like you realize these people have a something to gain from the advice that they're giving you, you know?
Yeah.
And so then you're like, hey, be careful if you're taking certain advice from people because they're like, they will directly monetarily gain from the decisions you're about to make.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I very much appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Very much
You know,
appreciate that.
a fun question I like to ask people. Normally I wait
Please.
till the end, but here's like a fun one is what is something that you used to believe to be true that you no longer do?
Ooh. If you do what you're passionate about long enough, you'll be successful. It sounds awesome. It sounds really good. I do not think it is true.
Right.
It's too easy. It's too easy to say that and then go do it. There has to be some level of strategy. If you don't have strategy, you don't have a roadmap. And if you don't have a roadmap, you're just kind of hoping that you land on the X marks the spot. So that it's been sad, and
Right.
I've had to mourn the loss of that. But do I get to do what I'm passionate about every day? Yes. Did I have I chased this every day for the last 8 years? Yes. And I also have a bucket of things that I must do every day to make sure I continue to get to do what I love to do. And nobody tells you that in the beginning.
Yeah, I think with passion, we're very misled. Like people always ask me, they go, "Oh, were you always just this passionate about comedy? Did you always just want to be a comedian?" My answer is no. Like I always loved comedy. I did. Like I remember the earliest memories I have of it was in grade 8 for English class. We had to do like an introspection quiz, you know, and they go like, "What makes you happy? What makes you sad?" And then it says like, "What do you think is funny?" And for that, I wrote on a stage in Montreal, which is like just for laughs. Because when I'd get home from school every day on the Comedy Network, there was a just for laughs, and I would like get to watch these stand-up comedians. I thought it was the funniest thing. So I remember that, but I never thought I could do it. I even remember just reciting jokes to my grandma. And my
Mm,
grandma would be like, Alex, you're really good at that. You should try do that. And I'm like, Grandma, it's really easy to say other people's jokes. Like I couldn't write my own. Um, but I think we all are sold that when you have this passion, it's just this burning desire that's innate within you that you're just drawn to do this thing. And I'll tell you, like, comedy was not that for me. Like, I wanted to be a hockey player.
mm,
Like, that was my goal. Like, Canadian kid, you know, I'm just like, oh, professional hockey player. Um, but comedy was the one thing, there were two things there. It was the one hobby that I didn't want to quit. Like, I would do it and then there were times where when I first started, I didn't do it for months. Like I did it like, you know, 3 times in my first month. Then I was like, I don't really know if it's for me. And I'd like took 2 or 3 months off. And then I went back and did a little bit. And the reason why is like at the beginning, you suck. Like you're not good. And it like, and the hardest part of comedy, I always say, is the only time you can practice is in front of a live audience. So I say,
mm,
try and learn a new skill. So I say, imagine learning how to juggle. You've never juggled. They give you 3 balls and they're like, Kate, you can practice juggling, but only when we're all watching you. So then you're just dropping the balls and you're like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry, I keep messing up. And it's like, that is what comedy is. So it's not that fun at the beginning because you're not very good.
yeah.
Um, but it was slowly like every time I walked away from it, I remember I would get these ideas or like something. I'm like, oh, I want to say this to someone. This, I think this is pretty funny. And comedy was the best outlet for that. So I was like, I got to go back on stage and do this because I want to talk about this thing. I think this is a good, funny idea. Um, and it kept drawing me back. And then I think the second was I started to identify with the trait. Like I wanted to be a comedian. I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. Like,
Mm,
so it's like your ego is like, ooh, this is a cool thing to identify as a comedian. So then, like, you know, once you, like you would know, once you start building an identity habit, those are like the hardest to break or
yeah.
change, right? So then that became kind of like, oh, is that people like, oh, that's that guy who does the comedy, right? And I like that identity. So that started to grow on me. And then the big third one was it was the one hobby that I could see a way to monetize. Like it was a very simple business structure. I was like, okay, if you get 50 people into a pub to all give you $20, I'm like, that's $1,000. So I'm like, figure out how to do that a couple times a week, and then, you know, you can feed you and your dog. So the combination of those things became my passion. And then, you know, it just grew and grew and yeah,
It's a good breakdown. So, I mean, when people ask, it's usually what can you get really good at?
right.
What can you sustain and what can you make money doing? That's, I mean, really, that's, and very similar. I want to be a professional fighter. That's what I want.
Right.
I want to get my ass kicked for a
Did you
living.
did you train?
I did, and then I tore my labrum and I had to get surgery, and it was like, interesting. I don't know if I'm as bulletproof as I once thought I was,
And was
unfortunately.
it you MMA or boxing or what?
MMA. So I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, and Muay Thai. Those are my three that I
Yeah.
wanted to do. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I trained MMA for like 18 months.
Nice.
Was like I started, I think, when I was 17 or 18. Just graduated high school. I don't know if I even graduated yet. Yeah. And I started doing it and I did it for about a year and a half. And that was like, that was another one. I was like, I'm gonna be this. I'm gonna grab a glass of water. Hang on.
Yeah, do your thing, man.
I was out late last night watching. Oh, this isn't good for the podcast. Just yelling across the room. I was out late last night watching the hockey game. And then
What do you think of Marchand? Are you so I live just outside of Boston, an hour outside of Boston. I was a huge fan.
okay.
I can't believe we traded him.
Yeah,
Whatever.
dude.
Don't worry about it.
That is crazy that they got
What
rid of him.
what do you think? Are you a fan?
I never liked Marchand,
No, okay.
but
Nobody did.
he is growing on me. Like my view of him has changed a lot over the last, I would say, year or two.
Okay.
For a long time, I just didn't like he's like licking guys like that. I was like, that is so lame, and he's just always being a little rap. But then the more like I've seen him in interviews, and you start to know like the character, and you're like, he seems like a nice guy. Like he
Yeah,
seems
yeah.
like he's like, whatever on the ice and off the ice. You always had to separate those anyway. Like I grew up playing a lot of competitive hockey,
Mm,
and there were guys that I would play against that I hated. And I don't like to use the H word, but I was like, I hate this guy. And then, well, after the game, like I get along with him great off the ice, but on the ice, I'm like, I will fist fight you right now. Like
yeah.
you're the worst. And that's what Marchand seems to be, and the kind of guy where it's like the um the guy you love to have on your team, but you don't want to on another team.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
because of my guy, I'm a Capitals fan,
Okay.
so I love Tom Wilson.
Okay.
And people hate Tom Wilson.
Yes, I was never a fan. Yeah, I know him and Marshmont had some back and forths in the day for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. Boy. Okay. So what were we talking about before I went and broke the stream with the water?
How you were going to be a professional mixed martial arts fighter.
No, 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 I wasn't. That was your dream. It was your dream.
Well, it was yours too. It was combined, both of ours.
Well, I think it just as a young adult, you're just looking, like I was looking for everything. I got into skydiving. I started skydiving. I was like, oh, I could be a skydive instructor. I bought a stand-up jet ski. Actually came down to Oregon to do some like jet ski competitions. I'm like, maybe I could be a professional jet skier. Like I was just looking for anything. I remember one time I watched Into the Blue and they're like, it's like Paul Walker and oh,
Jessica Alba.
Jessica Alba, yes. And I was like, dude, I could be a scuba diving treasure hunter. Like, I just wanted to be something, and you don't know what it is. And then I think that's what it was, just kept trying things. And then comedy was the one that I didn't want to quit.
Mm,
It was like the one that no matter how far I got away, I'd always get drawn back.
that has been podcasting essentially for me. Same. And it's it's so interesting. In the beginning, I didn't want to identify as a podcaster because I didn't want to get laughed at.
Right.
In the beginning, it was like, what do you do? It's like, well, I do a little podcasting on the side, that type of thing. Now it's like my favorite party trick, and I'm sure it's you have the same party trick where I'll literally go and people will say, what do you do? And I say, I'm a podcaster.
Yeah.
And it always opens up like, what do you mean? Well, no, I'm a podcaster, all this. In the beginning, I was so afraid to have that identity. And I was embarrassed and I was insecure about it. Now it's like my favorite thing in the world to have that identity. And it's just interesting how when you stick with something long enough and it goes well and you're lucky, that
Yeah.
identity serves you really.
Yeah. That's what I always wanted. You mentioned the lucky part. That's the thing. I've kind of gone. I've gone back and forth a lot about luck and hard work. Like I
Mm,
really believe in hard work. Like that's one thing that I've always said. I think like a belief I've had is that anyone can do anything. Like before we were on the air, I was kind of saying how anyone could be a comedian. And I think what it is that we all have different starting points, right? But then time and effort create a trajectory, you know?
mhm.
And then it's like if you stay on this like trajectory, it'll lead you to a certain point and you'll be end up here or there or wherever. Um, so yeah, so I lost my train of thought. The old age
Luck,
chicken. Luck.
luck,
Thank you.
luck.
That's
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
was. Right. So then I'm like, oh, hard work is what got me here, and that's the move. But then sometimes I stop and think about it. I always want to think it's hard work, and I think I want to think that because I want to be in control of the outcome and my
Mhm.
destiny. But something I think about lately is like I could have done everything that I'm doing now and it could have not worked. You know?
Mhm.
Like all I do it like I just put the shows together, I do the Facebook ads, I shoot videos and be like, "Hey, come see my show," and then I post the jokes online and like I could have done all of these things and it still could have not worked. And so I don't know, there has to be some
Ooh.
sort of element of luck there. Like
But if it didn't work, wouldn't you have just done something different?
here's the thing, I don't know what different to do right
But
now.
you
Like,
but you wouldn't unless you had to figure it out. That's the weird thing about it's
but
like you can't play the what if game because you never know what you would actually be at the step of what if. That's the weird part of the paradox.
well, that so here's a weird one that I'm trying to figure out now. I feel like my career is at a plateau
Mm.
right now. Like it was forever, it was just like, and now I would say it's probably been the last eight, 8 or 9 months now that it's been the first time since I quit my job 6 years ago that I'm like, oh, this is gonna work. Like it's working. I'm like, you have some financial stability now. Like I'm booked now for over a year. Like I'm booked till June of 2026. I have all my tour dates set up, and it's like just humming along, and life is good. And you're like, okay. But the thing is, I don't feel the shows are growing. Like I'm going back to the same cities, I'm doing the shows, and they're all around the same number of sales that I got the previous years. I've managed to increase revenue a little bit by increasing ticket price and, and lowering expenses. I've got better at that. So the business side is making
Mm,
more sense. But it is just kind of like, I'm like, what do I need to do to get to the next level where I'm like, I want to sell out arenas.
mm, mm,
I'm
mm.
like, how do you get there? And I'm like, oh, what do you do? Just spend more on marketing? Like, I don't know. And I don't think that's it. The only thing I've come up with is need to be posting more on social media. Like if I was like post a joke every day like I used to do,
Yeah.
then maybe. But I don't know. And so I don't know the answer. The thing I'm honestly thinking is moving to America. I'm like, if I could go to
Where,
America, huh?
oh, you're in Canada. You're in
So yeah,
Canada.
so I'm in Vancouver, BC right now.
Yeah.
But I thought like if I go to America, then I can hang around some of the main comedy clubs, either in LA, New York, or Austin. Then you're like rubbing shoulders with some of the biggest names,
Mm,
and be doing that. And I'm like, maybe that's the thing you need to get to the next level. But yeah, I don't
interesting.
know.
What will be the chasm that forces you to do something different? Like what? Not the chasm.
Yeah,
You know what I'm looking for.
yeah, no, yeah. I think it would be probably it would just be um the plateau. Like if I go like now I'm going next year, I've got like a really big tour from January to April where I'm doing all the big cities in Canada. I purposely skipped a bunch this spring and fall so that I'm like, no, we can put them all in because the winter time's the best time to sell tickets.
Interesting.
Like,
Makes sense.
because people like they don't when it's sunny out and nice, people are like, I'm not going to a show. Like, I'm going to the lake, I'm going to the beach. Like,
Mm,
we can just sit outside on a patio and be happy. But it's
yeah.
like winter time when it's dark at 4 o'clock and you've been cooped up in your house. You're like, I need to get out of here. And then people want to go and do comedy. So I've put everything into this January to April tour that I'm doing. So it's like all through the winter. And I think that, like, if those sales are just the same as they've always been, I'd be like, shit, dude, like you're not growing. Like it's not, you
Mm,
know,
yeah.
like,
Feels high stakes. I
yeah.
feel like this is a high stakes. I appreciate you bringing me in on this high stakes moment. I'm excited for you slash nervous for you also.
Well, I think I've already made up my mind that I'm gonna go June of 2020. Like after this tour,
Okay.
regardless, I think I need to go. Otherwise, what ends up happening is I just have to rebook the same towns across Canada next year. And then the struggle is I have to have a new hour when I go back to those towns. And I feel confident in coming up with a new hour, but I don't think I'm giving it enough time to be the best it could be if I'm trying to get it done in a year.
Mm,
I think if you take that second year, you can really dial the bits in and really get them, where you're like, oh, this is great. Because I even noticed on my last 2 hours, there's chunks of it where you're like, this is perfect. Like, I'm very happy. This is a completed bit. There's nowhere to move on this. But then I have other bits where I'm like, that was a half fleshed out idea. Like this
Mhm.
isn't done. I could have really worked on this a lot more and figured it out if I took more time. But I'm like, no, I'm done with these other bits and they need to go out. So I'm just going to put the whole thing out. And yeah.
You said you were going to learn something in this. I'm going to learn way more than you do in our conversation, for sure, guaranteed by design.
Well, maybe I need to quit talking so much.
No, I
Yeah,
love it. I
that's
love
the,
it.
I know, but I don't like, that's something that bothers me. I'm like, I talk so much, but you're just regurgitating information you already know, right? Like I'm just saying the same stuff that I already know. And so it's like Macklemore again, he goes,
Nice.
the quickest way to happiness is learning to be selfless. He's like, ask more questions, talk about yourself less.
That's fair, but what if this is my question. I pose this. What if you say something in maybe the same way that you said it before, but then you and I have a conversation that allows you to go a little bit deeper than you've ever gone on it before, and now you have a new perspective, and then next time you'll know that.
Yeah, I do. I think that's good.
All
Yeah,
right,
that makes sense,
cool.
right? Because then you're kicking the ball back in a different direction, and I got to
Yeah,
figure out.
you could go a little deeper. You know how there's conversations, and again, don't be mad at me when I say this. I don't mean it in a negative way, but there's conversations you'll have with someone, and then you'll get to a certain point and a certain depth, and you'll go, okay, that's as far as we're gonna go, and that's as deep as we can go, and that's fine.
Yeah,
And you have other conversations where it's like it's a test and it's a challenge, and it's like, can I breathe as far down as we are? I can. Okay, cool.
right.
That's how you've. That's what's worked really well for me is getting to a level of depth where I've never been and then seeing what happens.
Hmm.
And then often, like some of my best ideas have come from just not knowing what was going to happen in a weird way.
Well, I think that's, yeah, I think that that is the uncertainty is like the appealing part of it too,
Yeah.
right? And I think being uncomfortable is that like, you know what I'm getting right now? I've been saying, I said this to my buddy last night. We were out for dinner, and I said I have the same feeling now as I did when I quit my job
Mm,
to do comedy. Like I'm feeling like lower energy. I'm not as excited about going into work every day. I'm just kind of like, oh, here we go through the motion. And I think that that is the quicker you can recognize the pattern and make the change. So like at my old job, it was like I always told people I'm quitting. I'm quitting this job. And they're like, I remember everyone's like, and what are you gonna do? And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know it's not this. All right. Like it, and that was someone put a quote on my in my like locker and it said, the first step to getting somewhere is knowing you're not gonna stay where you are. And so it's
nice.
like, oh, perfect. And that's, I have this same feeling now with my comedy career where it's sitting at, where I'm like, I know I need to make a change. And then I'm like, rather than drag it out for 3 years like I did before quitting my job at the mill, recognize that you're having this feeling and do it now. So like a big one is like, I have to sell my RV. But again, that was so much of my identity is I'm like, I'm the van guy. I'm the guy who
Yeah.
tours around, sold everything to live in a van. And you're like, well, maybe that chapter's closed, dude. It's been 6 years and it's time to sell that thing. And then what I'm thinking is I need to get a permanent place somewhere that has like full-time comedy clubs so that I can get on stage every night
Mm,
because I need to be doing more of these short 5-minute sets to really build my material out. Like you can build it so much quicker with those short sets. So like in
yeah.
Vancouver here, we've got 3 comedy clubs all within a block of each other downtown. And a few months ago, I was down here. I got to do 5 sets in one night because they
Oh,
all have
wow.
an early show and a late show. So you do like your five here, then here, then here. So you can write a new 5-minute piece in the morning. Be like, here's how I think this is. You go and do it at the first show. You film it. You're like, okay, it went pretty good. People didn't laugh at this part. They like this part. You're like, try move this around. And then you go do it again right away, like 10 minutes later to a different audience. And then you do it again. You're like, okay, this worked good. And then you do it again and again and again. And by the end of like in one night, you have a pretty good idea how that bit goes.
Mm,
And you're like, if you were doing this every night, you know. But the problem is with the RV thing is I'm like driving them on the road and I'm just staying in random Walmart parking lots along.
yeah.
And I'm still getting lots of time because I'm getting hours every week, like I'm doing a full show and you can always mess around while you're up there. But
Yeah.
you get one shot at the new joke still in that hour. And you're
Mm,
like, okay, and then have to try it again the next day. So,
interesting. Interesting. I feel like these types of conversations are so valuable because instead of just getting an answer, you are getting an unpacked version of how the answer was arrived at.
right.
That's why I love digging. It's like, does any of this apply to me? Yes and no. None of it applies to me in specificity. All of it applies to me in mindset, and it's
Well, that
so important.
well, that's what I found now. Like earlier, I mentioned that I'm like, oh, comedy is the one hobby that I could find a way to monetize.
Mm,
I think I could find that in anything now. Like, I think I've learned enough about business and how to monetize something that I'm like, I think I could do whatever. I'm like, if I wanted to be, because hockey was the one. And I was like, I don't know how to make money at hockey unless you're a professional athlete. Like, and I never got there. So, but now I'm like, oh, I would start a hockey school, like start like a
mhm.
skating camp. And then just like I sell tickets to comedy, I would sell tickets to this training camp. And then at the beginning, I would hire, like when I wasn't ready to headline, I hired other comics to headline and I opened for them. So I'm
Yeah.
like at the hockey school, I would just hire like ex pros and be like, hey, I'll pay you this much to come and teach these kids how to do, skating, power skating or stick handling or skill development. And then I would learn under them. And then once I got to a level where I felt I could teach myself, I would then just have Alex McKenzie's skill school or whatever. And I'm like, oh, you'd be perfect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I dig the way you think. I feel like you and I are very similar in a lot of ways, and I dig that.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, man. You
Of
too,
course, brother.
dude.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I feel like I should have let you do more talking there.
No, man,
But
dude, I'm telling you, this was a joy for me. I don't know. Does the audience hate you? Do they know all this? I don't know.
no,
But
I don't think I've talked about I'm sure some of it, but not a lot. Yeah.
well, I appreciate you going deep with me because I feel like this is the stuff. This is real stuff. Like, what are you really going through in real time? And I don't think most people want to share that. So I have massive respect for that.
Oh, thanks, dude.
You're
Yeah, I
welcome, brother.
think I don't know, just being an open book always made things a lot easier. Or maybe it's
slash
just me.
slash harder.
Yeah, I feel like I just if I say it out loud, you're like, all right, this is what I think, and then it's just I don't know.
I'm similar in that for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure.
Sweet man. Well, I'll let you get out of here. Kev, if anyone wants to keep up with you or
Mm.
find you or do any coaching with you, where should they go?
Just go to nextleveluniverse.com. That is our website. The podcast is Next Level University. An episode every day. So you'll either love us or you'll get sick of us very quickly. Either one, it's all good. I appreciate the opportunity very much.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on, Kevin, and we'll talk to you soon.
Of course, brother.